Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Mirror Woods playing as the Force of the Empire against the Force of the Tomb Kings. And in this match we're going for a bit of ridiculousness because this is an Autogen composition. I'm just kind of sick of tryharding and trying to make compositions work and making valid comps. And I figured, you know what, screw this. We're going to Autogen, see what happens, and run with whatever we get. So this was the first composition I got. Didn't try to reroll anything of that sort. And, you know, I thought it was fairly passable. Obviously, breaking down the build, there isn't much to break down on the build because it's random. But for my lord, I did get the General Empire. Not much to be said for him. He's got his base kit. He's got Foe Seeker. He's got Stand Your Ground. He's got Hold the Line. Unfortunately, he's mounted on a Bartered Warhorse, which wastes about 100 gold because that's quite frankly a useless mount. But hey, what can you do? It does give me 20 more armor and a bit less mobility. Alongside him in the Hero Core, or the Soul Hero, is an Empire Captain. He's on foot. Foe Seeker, once again, a bit of a waste of money, but AI always does that with Autogen. And Hold the Line, which is actually not terrible. It will help my infantry hold just that little bit better, especially against all the fear and terror Tomb Kings can bring. Now, besides that, we don't have any magic, which is definitely going to be a bit of an issue. That said, with Autogen armies, if you land magic, it can be a bit of an issue, just because AI will give you all the spells, which gets really pricey. You can end up with mages that cost like 1,000 gold more than they normally would, and it's really annoying. So, in a sense, that's good. On the other side, obviously not great to not have spells. Our front line, 3 units of swordsmen. There's a whole sort of ragtag association of chevrons all over the place, but 3 swords and halberds to stiffen things up. Halberds, of course, a very efficient all-around unit, though you don't see them all too often. Our backline, handgunners as well as crossbows. So a bit of a mishmash there. And then we do have the Temploff Luminarch Regiment of Renown. So this is a roided up Luminarch, basically. Not much to be said for it. It's got absolutely atrocious melee stats. Basically a corpse cart when it comes to its melee stats, just a good bit faster. But of course it's a monstrous Lord Sniper. Has a bound spell, Bound Out of Mintok with 3 charges, which is awesome. You get the Locus of Hish, which is a cool map-wide power recharge reduction. And then you do also get the R of Protection. So 12% ward save in an AoE is definitely very solid. And my mana's never going to drop below 50% because I, quite frankly, don't have mana. Besides that, backing the Lord General, we actually locked out and got 2 demigryphs with halberds, which is going to be great against Tomb Kings. Having that anti-large bonus, having that AP, very useful against constructs. And they're not terrible against chaff infantry either. Now, obviously, the General of the Empire is nowhere near the likes of Karl Franz or Archlector for buffing these boys, but you deal with what you got. On the flank, we have some normal Demigryph Knights. On the other flank, just normal Empire Knights. And these units, well, they're okay in this match. We can definitely overrun some sort of cheap trash in the backline, and if the Demigryphs get on Monster, they'll do okay too. Now, for my opponent, he actually went with a much more legitimate build. Front line composed of Skelly Warriors, so not much to be said for these guys. They can tank, they can soak damage. They'll last a very long time. They're backed by a handful of Tomb Guard. Tomb Guard, very efficient in this match. They could beat down all the Empire State troops. And they'll do an okay job against, say, Great Swords. So, all in all, definitely not a terrible anchor unit. Besides that, the main focus here is definitely on shooting. We do have 3 units of Skeleton Archers. Who are spread, in fact, 4 units, sorry, of Skeleton Archers. No Regiment of Renown, a bit surprisingly, but 4 units of Skelly Archers, so these guys will be able to lay absolute waste to my infantry line, though perhaps not that efficient against Demigryphs with their high armor. There are also 2 Shopti Greatbows ready to lay down a pounding with their high range weapon strength. They do over 100, I think, AP damage per shot, which is pretty insane, 104. So definitely very potent. There are also several Chariots, 2 units of them, ready to mulch my infantry. Fortunately, I don't have much infantry. And then a few Skelly Spears in the back. And a Tomb King Lord, who's not something you see all that often, but he's definitely a very potent choice. No Amulet of Fast Up, but he does have my Will Be Done and Scorpion Armor, so definitely some cool equipment. And a Lich Priest of Light, who's got Shem's Burning Gaze, as well as a Net of Mintok. Almost immediately I decided to push in because I figure I can't really sit tight. I need to push and be aggressive. Unfortunately, Shopti immediately unloading on my poor halberds and doing quite a bit of hurt there. Those massive bolts just tearing through the state troops. But in return, we are getting a snipe there with the Lunar. You can see there, decimates the Tomb Guard. A bit lucky here with this shot. It actually killed about 20 models. But more importantly, hitting that Lich Priest of Light, knocking off a good third of his HP. So definitely going rather well there. And we are simply pushing very, very aggressively. Unfortunately, a bit of miss micro here. I unfortunately allowed these Demigryphs halberds to push ahead, and they are going to take a beating here. You can't see losing thousands of HP immediately from the bolt thrower like shots, losing 3 models, and they are getting screwed. And now my opponent is going to just shut me down with a net of Mintok because I'm not able to get shots onto that Lightcaster. The Luminarch is being obstructed, and that is definitely a little unfortunate. In the meantime, the Demigryphs just get focused hard, but that doesn't mean these Demigryphs over here are not being intercepted. And you can see they dive into the woods, going right past the Skelly Warriors and getting on top of the Skeleton Chariots, who they will tear to shreds given the opportunity. In the meantime, our infantry line is pushing forward. Swordsmen, of course, will tear through Skelly Warriors just fine, as will Halberds. And although the archers are doing a lot of work, we also do have that captain in there. And he's going to be buffing the boys. He's going to be making them just that little bit more efficient and dishing out a bit of hurt himself. In the meantime, the Empire General does dive in alongside his Demigryph Halberds, pop stand your ground, and we are going to mow through at least one of these units of Ushabti Greatbows before my opponent can do too much about it. Obviously, there are Skeleton Warriors in the mix, but they are not going to cut the mustard. Unfortunately, Luminarch there does kind of squander a shot. I ordered it to shoot at the Ushabti, but most likely should have used it on something else. We are going to retarget it shortly. The Demigryphs over here do rally, only 1,000 HP and 8 models left after that pounding they took from the archers, but what can they do? The Ushabti are destroyed, so big win for me. Despite the fact that we started with such an ugly engagement, losing so much of these Demigryphs, we have managed to wipe a unit of Ushabti Greatbows. We've annihilated most of the unit of Chariots here. They're now stuck on Halberds, which are not going to do terrible against. And we're overrunning my opponent. And in the meantime, the Luminarch there is just taking pot shots at the Lich Priest, unfortunately whiffing a little bit there, but doing so much work and really putting him in the ground. And it is a constant stream of pressure on my opponent. In the meantime, the archers and the guns unloading, unleashing their payload on these archers. Unfortunately, the swordsmen there do get terrified. But with the captain in the mix, we are able to maintain our halberds, keep them in place, and keep slugging out with this very annoying Tomb King. In the meantime, the Luminarch has now shifted fire and clocks that Tomb King in the flank. Keep in mind, the Tomb King Lords do all have fire weakness, and the Luminarch happens to do fire damage, so it's getting some extra value in there. Hitting that Tomb King. Now, unfortunately, Net of Mintok here does go down, which is going to help my opponent extricate his Ushabti, help him sort of reset his line, and it allows him to maul these Demigryphs with halberds pretty efficiently. He's getting surround here, he's getting spears in there. Now, obviously, spears by themselves won't do great, but these slowly but surely, they're going to chip these Demigryphs down. Another shot from the Luminarch hits that Tomb King, so the Luminarch is doing absolute work here, up to 52 kills, in fact, as well. But really, the key role here is the fact that my opponent, because Ushabti was so focused on Demigryphs, so focused on shutting down my backline, or my front line, he hasn't been able to fire it down on this Luminarch, and now it's doing work. It's just picking off this Tomb King with impunity, and my opponent's not able to do anything about it. Unfortunately, my guns here are being compromised a bit by my opponent's archery, and of course, the most annoying mechanic in the game, or one of the most annoying mechanics in the game, besides maybe Croak, the Ushabti summon does go down. So that success against my opponent's front line definitely came at a price, and now there's a whole unit of Ushabti on my back line. This is a huge pain in the rear. I saw it coming, I immediately packed up the Luminarch, and it's now running away as fast as the little horses can carry it. But that was definitely not what I wanted, and definitely not what I wanted to see. So unfortunately, that definitely sucks. And as my opponent here starts closing, we're actually going to cast a Net of Mintok on them to lock them in place, because I do have 3 charges to that. On the periphery, our Demigryphs with halberds are routing. In fact, this unit basically annihilated. This unit over here, very low on HP, just focused by all that archery, and is basically just our general at this point, really holding things together in there. And the unfortunate fact is we're not able to get on these Ushabti, and if they're able to get clear and keep firing into that melee, they'll be able to chip down these Demigryphs pretty effectively. The Ushabti do actually break out of the net eventually, and you can see the Luminarch there firing at point blank at the Tomb King, and promptly whiffs, I do believe, going into the back of those troops. The handguns, of course, being closer, are going to get overrun by the Tomb King, and shortly thereafter hit by the Ushabti, so they are goners, chariots pouring through the gap, and things are definitely not looking too good for the Sons of Sigmar. Unfortunately, our opponent, though, Temple of Luminarch packs up his bags, keeps running. He doesn't really have the tools to catch it, so that is one big boon. You can see Bonds of Power staying about dead center. Maybe a smidge in my favor, but definitely if things go south, my opponent could easily fear and tear out my army. Now, pivoting the Luminarch around, we are able to fire, but unfortunately another whiff, and the Tomb King here is just running amok, doing whatever the hell he pleases, and I don't really have many troops left. Empire Knights do rally here in the distance, 12 miles at this point, 500 HP, and we are going to be able to try to pull them back. And you can see the infantry are routing, swordsmen overrun by Tomb Guard, and the Skeleton Warriors over here, the Demigryph Knights, who have just been running amok. They destroyed those chariots early on, now they're trying to shut down the Ushabti. They're having a good go of it, whittling down this Lich Priest, whittling down these Ushabti, but they are getting mauled, and things are starting to look a bit dicey. There's still a lot of archery fire potentially left for my opponent. You can see these archers now pounding on the Temple of Luminarch, trying to whittle it down. Though granted, it does have that 12% ward save and 40 armor, not great, but it's not that easy of a target. Unfortunately, the Tomb King does finally take a hit. He's now down to 154 HP. wavers to crumbling, but then rallies, which is kind of nuts. The fact that he came back at that stage. But 154 HP now, he's going to be killable. My opponent here is trying to pull him away, pull him into safety, but I'm looking to deny him that opportunity. You can see the Luminarch pivots, and the Death Laser charges up. My opponent most likely turned his attention away for a split second, and it's going to be a beautiful shot here from the Luminarch. Just that swirl of light, and we are closing the gap here. The War Sphinx sitting here gets clipped by the bolt, and we are able to bring this beast down. And you can see the War Sphinx there, the Tomb King just toppling to the ground, and he goes down in a heap. So a beautiful shot from the War Sphinx, or for the Luminarch. And my opponent is now in a much worse position because suddenly his leadership is going to take a big hit from that lord loss. Certainly he was winning before, but now if we're able to rally, we could potentially pull this back. Now the Empire Knights there do break. My Luminarch here actually gets netted. My opponent desperately trying to shut it down, realizing what a huge threat it is. So he nets the Luminarch down. Over here, I was trying to force path my general through shortly alongside his Empire Captain, trying to get him in to help these demigods because their leadership is starting to fail. And if the leadership on these demigods fails, things could fall apart. My opponent's Shabti could shoot them in the back, and then things will be over. Fortunately, though, the Templar Luminarch still surprisingly tanky, probably because my opponent deployed in the woods here and didn't pull out, kind of just choosing to camp there. Because of that, he's not really able to get great shots on the Luminarch. It simply wheels away and runs like heck. Elsewhere, our crossbows taking these Tomb Guard on a long, merry chase. This, I think, was a huge misplan on my opponent's part. Personally, Tomb Guard would be much better here in this pocket. They could be helping eradicate the captain, they could be helping deal with these halberdiers, these swordsmen, but instead the halberds and the swords are getting in on these archers and chopping them to bits. You can see the halberds up to 50 kills, these swordsmen over 50. They're doing work, and my opponent is just kind of distracted. He's focusing on these high priority targets, and that's not necessarily a bad idea. But honestly, those archers, they're not going to kill the General of the Empire. They're not going to kill the Empire Captain. And my Demigryph Knights are not going to kill any of these troops that quickly either. So he really, in my opinion, could have focused down trying to kill these peripheral troops, get them off the field, and then deal with my elites. Unfortunately, he's just not able to hit the Luminarch here. Just wheels through the Skeleton Warriors, doesn't give a darn, and just pushes onward, taking that constant peppering, but able to tank through it relatively well. Does actually land a kill there. I'm not entirely sure how much or if any impact damage the Luminarch does. It's definitely not the most inspiring piece of kit when it comes to melee stats. It's got no weapon strength to speak of, and it's got no charge bonus of 8, charge bonus of 18. That said, we're coming in for another headshot here, aiming at the Lich Priest. We even set it up with a beautiful net of a Mintok. The laser charging here is basically just spelling doom for this poor Lich Priest. You can just imagine what he's going through. His desiccated head as the Luminarch charges up a couple paces away. Basically a range at which it cannot miss. And it is going to be lasering this poor bugger down. You can see just energy is draining in or sucking in. And out comes the laser, aiming for this poor bugger, sitting here, looking sad. And boom, he just gets destroyed. He gets thrown off his horse. A little bit of a delay there, but he's a goner. So poor guy, that my opponent's leadership is all gone, and suddenly things are looking a lot better. Because now my Luminarch is down to one shot, and I figured, if my opponent blobs, I can line up a shot. I can do, like a beautiful shot through a blob, take like 40 models or something. But let's conserve the ammo until I get that opportunity and try to help elsewhere. So we're basically running around, riding dirty like a chariot, and running over my opponent's troops. Unfortunately, the Demigryphs aren't finally being focused, so finally my opponent noticed that they're holding up way too well there, and does shoot them down, forcing them to rout. They have done some pretty good work up to this point, up to 3 chevrons and 90 some kills. But fortunately now the Luminarch does take their place, simply riding through the skeleton archers here, doing some damage, though probably nothing too inspiring. And our infantry is overrunning this backline, so you can see the halberds and swords smushing those archers. And Luminarch here is kind of plowing through. I was just trying to get some rear charges, cause that crumbling effect. Obviously crumbling is not the most devastating thing ever nowadays. It does very little really, but I'll take what I can get. And the Luminarch there simply trying to give me those rear charge bonuses. Fortunately, the Empire General as well as the Empire Captain are very efficient at murderizing infantry. That's one of the only things they do well, to be honest. But cheap trash like this will definitely go down. These archers are trying to reposition here to intercept the push. But we are getting this beautiful rear charge with the state troops. And another block of swordsmen here coming in from the flank. And even our Demigryphs are rallying in the distance, though unfortunately their leadership does fail and they shatter there. So you can't blame them. They've done some good work. They've done Sigmar's work this day, but definitely was a little unfortunate. That said, these Skelly Warriors do shatter and disintegrate, and the Luminarch just keeps riding dirt through this formation. And now the Spear's getting overwhelmed from behind. And of course, in this fight, State Troops, not the greatest combatants, but their stats are not terrible, and as long as the leadership holds tight, which is this captain is ensuring, as well as the general, we definitely have a chance. This squad of swordsmen here is flanking the Tomb Guard, and this pocket of Tomb Guard very, very powerful. And now I realize, as my opponent's Tomb Guard was coming back, one thing I didn't want is for them to get immediate recharge in here, break these swordsmen, potentially cause a chain rout. So we're actually going to net them, keep them out of the fight, which opens us the opportunity to beat down this squad of Tomb Guard, which is isolated here. So these Tomb Guard, isolated from their support, separated from their friends, are being torn to shreds. And the general and the captain doing some good work here. Just 112 kills on the captain. He's been doing Sigmar's work this day. Meantime, the Luminarch riding dirty through my opponent's formation, coming down to crush into this Tomb Guard. I was simply looking to break this formation already, get rid of it. It's up to 61 kills. It's been doing some work as a chariot, more than I'd expect, to be honest. And it's getting some good value there. In the meantime, our crossbows here are going to unload at point blank on these skeleton archers. And then, I said screw it. And in Imperial Guard fashion, we are going to fix bayonets, or whip out our short swords, and go into melee against the Skeleton Warriors. So this is probably the most wet noodle contest you'll ever see. These guys with their stats: melee 15, 24, weapon strength of 24. I guess, you know, they're better. 10, 15, 20. If we look here, it's 17 and 3. These guys have 21 and 3. So holy hell, they're so much better. They even have 20 armor, so double the armor. 100% improvement. And so the glorious charge of Sigmar's sons sweeping in, cutting down these Skeleton Warriors, getting that full 4 charge bonus, and really laying the smackdown on these guys. So these guys very tired, skeletons drained, so neither side's really in great shape here. But the main thing is I just want to get these skeletons off the field. And now we are pulling the Luminarch back. Keep in mind the Luminarch is providing that constant protective aura whenever it sweeps through. That's plus 12% ward save, and it's now able to run through these archers, do some damage. My opponent's army is going to start to shatter. Of course, the charge of the crossbow is really the deciding factor in this game, and ensuring us that victory. That's going to be a Pyrrhic win for the Empire. So, like I said, not the most serious of games. The build, pure RNG, pure Autogen. I lucked out. To be honest, this is nowhere near the worst Autogen army I've seen. This is surprisingly respectable. I do think that in this game, the Luminarch really came out being an MVP. It was able to snipe out both my opponent's Lord as well as his caster, which was huge. In and of itself, it right there just paid for itself easily. Netting probably a good 3,000 gold worth of kills just in that. And then it actually killed a few Tomb Guard. It killed like 20 Tomb Guard in one of his opening shots. Maybe it's literally its opening shot. I think it killed the new shot. The Great Bow with one shot. And there was a few little moments like that. And the nets were valuable. The ward save was valuable in the end game when we just need to grind through. And all in all, it was an MVP. The rest of the build, well, heavy cast not terrible. The main problem is, of course, through shot the Great Bows, but my opponent kind of misdeployed, I think. Instead of moving his whole army forward, out into the open, he kind of camped in the woods, and I think that was a mistake because it made it very difficult to retreat through Ushabti and made it very difficult to screen for the Ushabti, because had he just pushed this infantry blob forward, screened for his Ushabti, he could have easily just been picking away at me. I couldn't trade an artillery duel. I had to push into him. Templeoff Luminarch cannot win an artillery duel against 2 Ushabti, so I would have had to push. And at that stage, he could, you know, zone out my cav, the spears, and the Tomb Guard, and my infantry corps was nowhere near a match for his. Demigryph Knights did work, as did Demigryph Halberds. The Demigryph Halberds here completely annihilated a unit of Ushabti. Second unit of Demigryphs wiped out chariots, swung around, deleted the other unit of Ushabti, and ended up really holding the line together. They bought me a huge amount of time fighting alongside the general and the captain, who also proved incredibly useful. And I think one of the things that I did find interesting in this match was the fact that many of the units I quite frankly didn't expect to do that well did rather well. The captain and that general especially just shone really brightly here. General, obviously very cheap, very budget, very crap in many ways, but the fact that you do get hold the line and you get stand your ground, and he's not the worst thing ever in melee stats, especially against cheap trash, made him pretty efficient there, made him pretty effective. Same thing with the captain. The captain helped hold together the infantry corps when the general went on that desperation run against the Ushabti with the halberds. The captain was the one who really held the line together, who supported those halberdiers, made sure they didn't flee. That was huge. Now for my opponent Underhill here, my main critique was really his deployment. I think his deployment was quite frankly, well, his initial deployment wasn't bad, but his initial moves were, in my opinion, the big mistake. pushing out through Shopti instead of pushing out his whole army. He saw immediately that all I had was the Luminarch. So I understand you don't want to risk your Lord or caster to the Luminarch. So okay, hide these guys behind like some hills. Hide them behind the trees. Makes sense. But this whole rest of the stack could have easily pushed forward. Started peppering down my Luminarch or my Cav or whatever. And he would have still had that threat presence, that Tomb King and the Lich Priest of Light ready to provide support if the need came. They could still be within supporting range, if not within sort of melee range. And the Tomb King can tank like 3, 4, 5 shots from the Luminarch. So potentially, if push really came, and keep in mind when I say 5 shots, envision that as like, I mean, I'm not sure. I think it's like 20. Is it 15 seconds of reload time on a Temple off Luminarch? We can actually check that right now. How long that is. But if let's say it takes 5 shots for Luminarch to kill you, and as you saw there, the one shot almost killed the Tomb King, and it was just barely not enough to cut the mustard there. So Temple off Luminarch, 15 seconds. So I was basically right. I thought it was about 15. So you know, 5 times 15, you get 75 seconds. So a minute and a quarter in which your Lord's not dying. And let's say you don't want to risk him completely, so a minute. It gives you a safe minute. The amount of damage a War Sphinx can do in a minute is ridiculous. It is not to be underestimated. So I think it's worth keeping in mind. I think that was something my opponent really could have done there that would have probably secured in the game. My composition simply wasn't really optimized. Like the Luminarch plus the aggressive build was kind of awkward. Ideally, if I was going for an aggressive build, I'd probably ditch the Luminarch, bring a whole bunch of probably grenade launchers, and use those to clear out the chaff. So then my cavalry could kill off monsters. But there was kind of a bit of counter synergy there. So I didn't really have the defenses to properly defend my Luminarch, and I was also suffering offensively because I didn't have enough tools to push the offense because I had the Luminarch. So just my thoughts there on what my opponent could have done better, because I don't think his composition was actually bad. I think his composition was definitely respectable. He had a lot of DACA. The only other recommendation I'd have is more armor sundering tools to make your archers better against Demigriffs, Great Swords especially, even Lords on Griffins and stuff. But besides that, well played to my opponent. Definitely was a fun game. Definitely was entertaining. So sort of try and make an Autogen army work. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys had fun watching something a little non-standard. And if you have any comments, critiques, questions, requests, don't hesitate to put them down below. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.